I've been using the Garmin Instinct 2X Solar since November 2023. This watch has a built-in barometric altimeter and barometer, so in theory, the elevation data should be better than GPS-only devices. But in my real-world use, the elevation data can still look weird even after calibration. That's why I started checking the elevation source option in Garmin Connect Web. In Garmin Connect Web, there are two elevation sources: your device and digital elevation model data. Your device means Garmin uses the elevation data recorded by the watch. Since the Instinct 2X Solar has a barometric altimeter, the elevation comes from the watch sensor. Digital elevation model data, or DEM data, means Garmin recalculates the elevation using map-based terrain data instead of relying only on the watch sensor. For me, DEM data is not a replacement for the sensor during the activity. It is more like a post-activity correction when the elevation recorded by the watch looks unrealistic. So why can the watch sensor be inaccurate? A barometric altimeter does not directly measure height. It estimates elevation based on air pressure. The problem is air pressure can change not only because I'm going uphill or downhill, but also because of weather changes. For example, if the weather changes while I'm staying in the same place, the watch may detect a pressure change and interpret it as an elevation change. This can make the elevation graph drift even when I'm not actually climbing. The sensor can also become inaccurate if the barometer port is blocked or dirty. Sweat, dust, water, soap residue, mud, or dried salt from sweat can affect the pressure reading. So, if the elevation data suddenly becomes strange, cleaning the watch gently with fresh water and letting it dry can help. But don't poke the sensor hole with a needle or sharp object, because that can damage the sensor. Temperature changes can also affect the reading. Moving from an air-conditioned room to a hot outdoor area, wearing the watch under a sleeve, getting caught in the rain, or using the watch after swimming can all affect the sensor for a while. Calibration also matters. On the Garmin Instinct 2X Solar, you can go to Sensors and Accessories, then Altimeter, then Calibrate. The exact menu may vary depending on the software version, but generally you can calibrate the altimeter manually or using GPS. If you know the actual elevation of your location, manual calibration with a known elevation is usually the best option. You can get the elevation from a reliable map, topographic data, or a known reference point. You can also calibrate using GPS, but GPS elevation is not always perfect. If the GPS signal is weak, blocked by buildings, trees, or bad weather, the calibration can still be inaccurate. Garmin also has auto calibration. There are usually options like on, nightly, or off. When auto calibration is set to on, the watch can recalibrate more actively, especially if GPS is available. This can help, but sometimes it may also introduce strange corrections if the GPS or reference elevation is not accurate. Nightly auto calibration means the watch calibrates automatically during your sleep window. For my use case, this can be a good balance because the watch still gets recalibrated, but it is not constantly changing the elevation during the day. Off means the watch will not auto-calibrate the altimeter. This is useful if you prefer to calibrate manually using a known elevation before an important activity. There is also sensor mode. Auto mode lets the watch decide whether pressure changes are caused by elevation changes or weather changes. Altimeter mode treats pressure changes as elevation changes, so it is useful for hiking, trail running, or mountain activities. Barometer mode treats pressure changes as weather pressure changes, so it is better when you are staying at roughly the same elevation, such as camping or daily use. Choosing the wrong sensor mode can make the data look strange. For example, if I use altimeter mode while staying in one place during changing weather, the watch may think the pressure change is an elevation change. For my Garmin Instinct 2X Solar, my practical setting recommendation is simple. For daily use, I prefer sensor mode auto. For regular walking or running on mostly flat routes, auto mode is usually enough. For hiking, trail running, or mountain activities, altimeter mode makes more sense because I want the watch to treat pressure changes as elevation changes. For camping, staying in one place, or when I mainly want to monitor weather pressure, barometer mode is more suitable. For auto calibration, I personally prefer trying nightly first. It keeps the altimeter calibrated during the sleep window, but it does not aggressively recalibrate all the time during the day. Before an important activity, especially if I want better elevation data, I would manually calibrate the altimeter using a known elevation. And after the activity is finished, if the final activity data still looks unrealistic, I open Garmin Connect Web and change the elevation source from your device to digital elevation model data. DEM data is not perfect either. It can be inaccurate on bridges, flyovers, underpasses, tall buildings, or places where the map elevation data is not accurate. But for normal outdoor routes, DEM data can be a useful correction when the barometric altimeter data looks wrong. So, if your Garmin elevation data looks weird, don't panic. It does not always mean your watch is broken. First, check the sensor port and make sure it is clean. Then, check your altimeter calibration, auto-calibration setting, and sensor mode. And if the final activity data still looks wrong, open Garmin Connect Web and compare your device with digital elevation model data. In my case, this is the easiest way to fix weird elevation data after the activity is finished.